In this video, I'm talking about how you can communicate to an autistic person and 5 of the best strategies for improving and helping with communication. All that and more is coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie world. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD and dyslexia, and I make weekly videos on this type of content. So if you're new around here, you've stumbled across this video and you'd like to learn more, remember to hit that subscribe button by clicking the notification bell down below. And if you're watching over on Facebook, be sure to give this page a like and a follow so you don't miss a video. All right, let's get on with it. Woo! What's going on, Aspie world? Thinking differently fam, where we think differently daily. What is going on? It's super good to be making videos again. And yeah, it's coming to the end of summer and I'm kind of feeling that whole autumnal kind of feel. So yeah, I wanted to do this video because I did like a collection dive on my Instagram asking people, you know, what are the biggest issues they have, you know, and a lot of people came back saying that communication was one of the biggest things, like people not being able to communicate to them. FYI, if you are not already following me on Instagram, I do a lot of content specifically on Instagram and asking you questions and, you know, talking to you, engaging and stuff. So head over to my Instagram, give me a follow. The same on Twitter, give me a follow on Twitter. I love communicating and talking to you guys on there, so please do that right now. My links are on the screen and in the description below, so you can just click it and go straight through. Yeah, send me a DM. So, autism and communication. So let's just dial it back a second, right? And if you are new around here, drop me a message down below in the comments saying, hey Dan, I'm new. And if you're not new, just drop me a message saying, Dan, sticking around to see another video. I love talking to you guys. I read and respond to every single comment, so do that right now. So let's start at the beginning. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that impacts the communication aspect of the neurological paths in the brain, which basically means that things get kind of a bit jumbled up, and the brain of an autistic person is quite unique in the fact that it sees things in a different way. So this actually does impact the communication effort of social communication and social etiquette, and also communication in many formats, especially verbal and audio format of communicating. So I was thinking about this, thinking like, how do I explain to somebody, or how do I help people who are, say you work you know, in a place and you're a manager and somebody on your team has autism, or hey, maybe you're a teacher and one of your students has autism. Hit me up with a like button if you guys are like a teacher or like a professional working with somebody on the spectrum. I'd love to know, you know, just give this video a thumbs up, give me a gauge to see who's watching these videos. And you want to communicate better to those people or that person, and I thought it would be really cool to list out 5 of the coolest ways and the most effective and impactful ways where you can not only communicate to somebody, but you can also improve and learn as you go by doing these strategies and techniques. So stick around to the end of the video to see all of them, because I pretty much guarantee these are going to be absolutely gold for you, which is super awesome. So this brings me to number 1, being patient. Now, being patient is having patience with people. So people on the spectrum may be confused when you're talking to them. They may be slightly agitated. They may be, you know, a bit kind of distracted. And especially, I know for me as well, having ADHD, which comes comorbidly pretty much a lot of the time with autism, you can be distracted. So it's not easy to stay on a flow of conversation, you know? So having patience and being patient and tolerable with somebody on the autism spectrum, and just giving them a little bit of time to kind of go, okay, well, I'll go over it again. Don't worry. You know, if it's not them trying to take disinterest in your conversation. It's them having an issue with trying to really nestle down and get that full scope of focus in the conversation. So I have a real big issue in focusing on things, especially when people are talking to me like actual, with just voice talking to me with no explanation and there's no images and stuff. So I'm always a bit like, I'm really trying my best to focus, but then I can also see the wind moving the trees in the background, and I get really taken by that, and then I start thinking about kind of like the nature of wind and how bizarre it is. And so that's just how our brain works. We're seeing everything as a really big open picture where it's really difficult to focus just on that one thing. So that being said, I highly recommend having patience. Rule number 1, just take it back, give them some time, have some patience, and just be, you know, maybe you're not a patient person, right? Maybe you're a busy person, you're supposed to go, but learning and practicing patience with people on the spectrum will pay dividends major for you, because it's going to increase your relationship with them, and you will be able to learn a bit more because they'll be able to say that, well, you know, you appreciate them and they'll be reciprocated. Okay, moving on to number 2, and this is one of my favorite ones to do. It must annoy everybody. Now this one is repeating when needed. So people on the autism spectrum, like myself, sometimes have difficulties in understanding what you're saying. So I may say to you, hey, can you repeat that again? And can you repeat that again? And can you repeat that again? And it may be so frustrating because you're trying to talk to this person about something that maybe imminently, like, I need this done right now and I'm trying to do this thing and I need to tell you this stuff, and they're saying, can you repeat it, please? And it may seem frustrating, but you have to remember they're not asking you to repeat that sentence because you are boring, or they are trying to wind you up, or they're trying to do anything other than just understand what you're saying. They're literally having a difficult time understanding, decoding, deciphering the communication that you are passing to them. Because you think about communication is moving particles from one area of space to another area of space, and a cycle of communication is then having those particles then reciprocated and move back to that area of space that they once were. So if there is a difficulty in understanding what the particles are, then you're going to have a real big issue there. It's kind of like, you know, having a circle hole here, but a square block that's passed over, and the square block can't fit in the circle hole because it doesn't understand it's not the right thing. So if you had someone saying, okay, pull up the square hole and I'll push the square hole over, and then the square goes through the square hole, and you get the kind of metaphorical idea I'm talking about here. So when somebody on the autism spectrum approaches you and asks you to repeat the thing, they're not being annoying, they're not doing it to get under your skin, they're just doing it so they can understand what you are saying. And it's one of the most interesting things, because I always have to ask people to repeat themselves a few times so I can get the data, the information, and really digest that. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Nobody's playing any games, nobody's being a fool. They're just asking you for your help because they just need a little bit of time to understand what you're saying. Okay, number 3 is absolutely paramount, and I feel like this one is something that people always forget, and it's the last thing. When they're talking about communication, they're trying to communicate with like kids on the spectrum, especially teachers and stuff, and just people in general. They forget this one, and this doesn't even come to their mind. This is the use of images. Now, images are a great way of communicating. Now, everybody in the autism spectrum are visual thinkers. We think with our brains in visual format of pictures and seeing bigger scopes of things, and images are a great way to convey things, because people on the autism spectrum have an issue with understanding emotion. So it's difficult for me to understand emotion from someone if they don't directly say, hey Dan, I am sad. It's hard to understand if a person's sad, if they're happy, because I have a hard time looking somebody in the eye, and people on the autism spectrum have difficulties with eye contact. So if eye contact's difficult and you're not looking somebody in the face, you're not even going to notice if they're crying or if they're like really, really smiling. But a lot of the facial expressions are really kind of a miss. And there's a whole video on facial expressions that I'm going to do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you come back. When I upload that video, it will alert you and tell you that I've uploaded that video on facial expressions. But for right now, just know that it is an issue. Now, because of that, it's hard to really convey emotions. So one way that I get people to do it is using emojis on your iPhone or smartphone or smart device or whatever it is. Because you get a text message and somebody has like a crying face, you know instantly this person's upset. There's no ambiguity. There's no having to guess if this person's okay or beating around the bush or whatever. They don't have to say anything, just send you an image. You could send a complete text message in just emojis and I would get what you're saying, because I see visually and I'm like, okay, well that makes sense. So always think, try and use emojis, try and use pictures, draw it out if it's easier for you. If you haven't got the right emojis, get a piece of paper or go on your phone and get the drawing app and just draw out the story or the image or whatever you're trying to convey. It's going to save you so much aggro and hassle trying to explain something when someone is more of a visual thinker than in like a typical audio kind of input device. So images are king. Okay, so number 4 is a great one. Nobody ever does this, and I think that everybody should. And I developed this idea from my line of work because I work with social media, you know, and I do all the social media stuff. And one of the biggest things is I rely on data that I process. I process that data and then I analyze it and then I see where I went wrong and where I went well, and then I repeat the went well part of the data, and that moves me forward, and it's how you grow things online. So when you apply that to communication, the only way you're going to know is to ask someone for feedback. So ask the autistic person, hey, could you let me know which parts of the conversation were difficult for you and which parts you understood? And then you'll be able to understand how to fix the parts that were wrong and how to continue with the parts that were good. Asking for feedback is data analysis 101, and computing it, analyzing it, and moving forward by, actually executing the strategy is going to be just amazing. And the person is going to so much appreciate you for asking them which parts were good and which parts were bad, because I can guarantee nobody's ever thought of this. Okay, so number 5, the last tip I have for you guys, the last strategy, which is a good one, it's a good juicy one, which is explain the detail. Now, I don't have to be the one to tell you that autistic people love the fine detail and the very minute focus detail in everything. Now, being on the autism spectrum myself, I love to see the big picture and I love the details in things. I love the minute details, because the minute details build a big picture. When people talk about things, they say, you know, I went to this thing the other day and I did that, and they kind of blanch over all the stuff. They kind of just go, okay, well, I did a bunch of stuff, but you typically know what I'm talking about. And people just kind of nod along as if they know what they're talking about. But autistic people can't build a picture from half nonsensical information. So remember, when you're talking to an autistic person and you're explaining something, give the fine detail, because the production is in the detail, the proof is in the detail. You are going to cut out a lot of miscommunication, errors, not understanding what you're saying, ambiguity issues, lags in kind of the story. The person coming up to you and saying, can you explain that again, but explain the part where you went to do this, or I'm supposed to do that, because the detail is where it's at. So remember, give as much detail as possible, and that will really improve the communication that you have with an autistic person. I can guarantee you right now, if you can just, this is a task, okay? Go to, you know, your autistic friend or whoever it is you're dealing with, and then give them a fine detail in the next piece of communication that you give them, and the reaction you get is going to be just incredible. They're going to understand what you're saying so much more. And so if that works, which I know will do, come back to this video and leave me a comment and say, Dan, you nailed it. And for that, I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.